Hey, what is up, everybody? Basically, in this last, basically past week, since the Macho Man has, died, a lot of wrestlers have came out and talked about the life of the Macho Man, giving their memories, this, that, and the other. But um, as sad as it is, I've been trying to look into a lot of their comments. And I've been trying to break down one of wrestling's greatest, biggest mysteries and all that is out there. Basically, the feud that was, Macho Man Randy Savage versus Vince McMahon. There has to be some sort of reason or some sort of anything that Macho Man was basically out of, the light. The easiest rumor that a lot of people have put out there on the internet, which I really just don't really believe, is that Stephanie McMahon slept with the Macho Man, and that's what led to his dismissal from WWE and just basically erased from all of that is history. McMahon, blocked Macho Man being put on video games, getting a Legends contract, basically blocked him from any sort of income from the WWE. And then, when you do the math and you look into it, I just don't think in my mind that I don't know Stephanie, but I just don't think Stephanie McMahon would sleep with an aging Macho Man Randy Savage at the age she was, even if she was legal. That would be one hell of a reason for McMahon to sort of put the axe on him because everybody has talked about even Stephanie and the Triple H. They've said that Stephanie wasn't allowed to date the wrestlers. She was allowed to, do basically anything she wanted, but she just wasn't allowed to date the wrestlers. And I think that Vince would have thrown up the guard more with Triple H, coming into the picture later if Macho Man would have already done this, basically hit and quit Stephanie back in the day. I just don't see that there. And basically the other stupid rumors is that Macho Man gave her drugs, but they've also said the same thing about Raven being the same thing out there. So basically, there's a lot of mysteries out there that just don't really make sense in my mind. It's been good that like Roddy Piper on Twitter, he put it out there that he thinks the reason that they had beef all this time was that Macho slapped him in a bar. He said that's it. That's the end of the story. Um, I could see that being a big reason, but basically, people like this fight sometimes, and that you just get over it. And I think Macho Man and Vince would be able to do that as well. Just over time, it's been so long. Especially if this happened in '94. George the Animal Steel came out and he said, you know what? The only real reason these guys have heat is that Savage left and went to WCW at the time. I can believe that because Macho Man sort of, asked his way out of the company. I can see that he came up to Vince and said, I'm just done with this. I'm done with wrestling. I don't want to commentate anymore. You're not using me. I just want to retire. I want to go home and live my life. And convinced Vince that he was done with wrestling. And then he asked for his release, and when he's granted his release, he shows up on WCW. Many wrestlers have done this before. They sort of duped the boss and been able to switch brands. Kevin Nash told WCW he was retiring, and then within a week he showed up in WWF. Shawn Michaels' bodyguard. He debuted in the Garden, and walked down like that. There is the video. If you've never seen it, I linked it on Twitter. If I can find the link again, I will post it in the description box where Vince McMahon basically says his goodbyes to Macho Man Randy Savage. And you can see the pain in his face. He almost starts to cry at one point. You can see that he's really, really hurt by Savage leaving. But then it takes a drastic turn, almost like if he's acting. I can't really tell, but like after you see his face, swell up where he's about to cry, then you see this look of anger on his face. Just it's very very weird, and I think it's a must see for you. If I can find the link and remember, I'll throw that up on there. Um, but basically, just what does everybody else think? Basically that it's out there. Dusty Rhodes has come out and he said that he was the head booker for TNA back in the day, and Jeff Jarrett backed this story up as well. Basically, they planned a whole run-in situation that led to a pay-per-view that was supposed to be Randy Savage's big wrestling debut comeback. It was supposed to be a 3-on-3. I believe it was Daniel Styles and Savage going up against the Kings of Wrestling, Hall, Nash, and Jarrett. And Macho Man sort of flipped out. He got a little crazy that he didn't want his fans to see him the way he was. He just he wasn't the big ripped jacked up Macho Man Randy Savage of the past. He probably hadn't worked out, or if he had worked out, not worked out as hard, or maybe not taking the roids that he used to take back in the day. Just was just a little ashamed of the smaller Macho Man that he had become. basically to the point where they had to change the whole shape of the pay-per-view, which led to Savage getting thrown in the back of a limo, limo driving off. It's starting off as a 3-on-2 match. Then Savage, miraculously coming back at the end of the pay per view to come back, make the save, and get the pin after basically just giving the one punch knockout to Jeff Jarrett. That was supposed to lead to a one-on-one match, Macho Man against Jeff Jarrett. That match never happened because Macho Man walked out of the company. That leads to other rumors that the reason why Macho Man walked out of the company is because there actually was a confrontation with Hulk Hogan in the back of the Impact Zone. Basically that was they had brought Macho Man in, and Macho Man was under some sort of deal with TNA, but at the same time they were heavily recruiting the Hulkster to try to come over. At that point, they were basically stealing him from WWE at the time. I believe this is after Jeff Jarrett had went to Japan and started the whole angle where he said, Hulk Hogan, if you don't want to come to TNA, TNA is going to come to you, and he gave him the big guitar shot. And that was supposed to lead for something really, really big. And then the rumor that stems off of this is that they said that Savage and Hogan had a confrontation in the back where basically, Hogan and Savage decided that they were going to basically go at it. And they got to the point where they almost got to a fight. And then both of them left their separate ways, which left TNA with nothing. And, TNA just got the raw end of the deal. They were, going to have this dream basically have both members of the Mega Powers. I don't know if they were going to use them separate or together, but you can only dream what could have happened because basically nothing did happen. So but I don't even know if I got into the story to get into what I was talking about, but Dusty Rhodes had to be the man that really talked Savage into going in there. Savage wanted to just basically leave that pay per view and go home. Just because his mind was in it that he didn't want to let his wrestling fans down. He didn't want the wrestling fans to look at him now and remember what he used to be back in the day. Which to solve this wrestling mystery, maybe I think that's what it is. I think just Savage just he had his career so high. He didn't want to lower that bar because basically wrestling fans remember him for being the champion in WWF, so on and so forth, and he just didn't want to go back down there. He'd made enough money in WWE, WWF, and he just he didn't need it. He rode the WCW train, got all his head turners money, walked out, and if he was smart, he didn't waste his money, and he just was able to just live his life, and basically lived it real secluded. On that HD Net show, he said that Macho Man had built a house that was about 20 minutes away from where Hogan was, but Savage was so secluded that he had never been there. He built the sort of the wall around the house, and I just I just hope that he was happy in his last days. When the TMZ pictures came out of him getting married with his wife, you can actually, I looked at his face and I could tell that the guy actually truly looked happy, and it was a good story. He married his high school sweetheart. He looked like maybe he had gotten something back in his life that he thought he lost, that he'd never be able to get back. And it's just a shame that she had to be with him when he died. Crazy things happen in the world, but basically, that's how I solved this wrestling mystery of Savage versus McMahon. If anybody out there, wants to make another video and just say that you think another angle is what happened or so on or so forth, you always just leave comments in the box or just hit me up at Twitter at steviebreech. But Macho Man Randy Savage, it's everybody sort of threw in their thoughts on what this big feud was all this time. But it's sad that we had to wait for Savage's death basically to figure out why this feud went on so long and why McMahon never, let Savage back in the WWF company after he let so many other guys in and out that, basically sort of left and went to WCW. Hall and Nash got to make their return. Hulk Hogan got to come back and return and be a champion after that. When he made his return, headline WrestleMania, so on and so forth. Um, I remember it was just Jim Ross talking. I believe this was like in '96 or '97 on the Monday Night Raw, trying to hype up people to call the 900 hotline. Jim Ross had said that if you call now, he had the tips that the Royal Rumble was about to turn a whole lot more macho. That that they were thinking of bringing Macho Man in for the Royal Rumble. They're gonna steal him back from WCW. They're gonna find that loophole in his contract, sign him up when his contract's signed, and bring him in January. But as he didn't show up. He stayed with WCW until almost its dying days. He made it close enough to say that he made it to the end. He just when the money started running out, he was one of the guys that got clipped. But You know, it just doesn't make sense why we never got to see Macho Man again, and it's sad.